Okay, I think we're ready to start.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let's call the May 2020 school board meeting to order. It looks like we have everyone present. Have y'all had a chance to review the April 2020 minutes?
I move to approve the April minutes.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Let's take a vote by roll call. Brister,
Aye.
Watt, Hot.
Oh, yeah, I meant, Miss Ed, hang on a second,
How do you vote on the April?
since I figure this out, just a minute. Okay. Aye,
And Higgins,
Aye.
Rucker,
Yes.
Ware,
Yes.
Horton,
Yes.
and Jernigan is an aye. Let's go to the consent agenda. Have y'all had a chance to review that?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll
Do I have a-
second.
Was that Rucker? Did you second?
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the consent agenda, let's roll call. Brister,
Yes.
Hot.
He's lost his signal. He's working to get it back on.
Okay, I'll come back to him. Higgins,
Yes.
Rucker,
Yes.
Ware,
Yes.
Horton,
Yes.
Jernigan's a yes. And Hot, Ron's back. Ron, we're voting on approving the consent agenda, which is B and C. How do you vote
Aye.
on that?
I vote yes. Yes,
That passes. That brings us to superintendent's report.
Couple of items to mention to you of items of interest. The Alma Education and Arts Foundation awarded their scholarships. I don't know that the award letters have gotten to the students yet, but if they haven't, they will in the next couple of days. As you can see from the agenda, 72 scholarships worth $83,000. That's down a little bit from the last 2 or 3 years, not unexpectedly. The foundation lost the ability to present several events this spring, which bring in quite a bit of revenue. So that's not unexpected. But given that, I thought $83,000 was a quite good amount because students were not in school, and no matter how hard everybody pushed to be sure students knew to apply and the application was online, this is the fewest applications we've had in quite a number of years. That number was down also. But that's just the world in which we find ourselves right now, that those kinds of things are happening. But again, nonetheless, 72 scholarships worth $83,000. That puts the total that the foundation has awarded over time to about 1.1 million, which is quite an impact on Alma High School and Alma students and on the community. The other thing I want to mention, which is in your packet, item D, one of our, we've been involved in National History Day for, 30 or 35 years. And this is not our first teacher to receive an award from them, but just our most recent. Mrs. Mary Jocelyn, as you can see from the letter, was awarded one of their National History Day top awards for the involvement of her students and Alma students and their success in it. National History Day has been an unbelievable event for a whole lot of our students for a lot of time. How many of you all went to Washington on a National History Day trip? Any of you?
Yes.
I did.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's an unbelievable event to make that trip, and it's one we will hope to continue far into the future. I obviously want to spend
That takes us to old business.
I obviously want to spend some time tonight talking about where we are and where we're headed. To talk about what we've done for the last 8 weeks and have a little bit more time to go. This is certainly unprecedented. It's certainly not anything, not any of us learned how to have school without school in graduate school. For all of us, it's been building a car while driving it. But I can't praise our teachers enough. They were in the same boat. They had one day's notice that this was going to happen, that they had to adapt their teaching, their material to presenting it to students without being physically present. And it's not been perfect. By no means has it been perfect, but our teachers have put in an enormous amount of effort and time to make it as good as possible. We have our school year ends Friday of next week, May 22nd, just as scheduled. Obviously, as would be true if we were all in school in a normal sense, things are starting to wind down. We told all of our students if they needed an electronic device, computer device at home, they were welcome to use ours. We have about 1,200 of our Chromebooks and iPads loaned out to students, and they're starting to come back now. We will, of course, do everything we have to do to get them all back, and that we'll see how that turns out as we go through the next couple of weeks. I suspect we'll have to probably go knock on some doors to get some of them, but we plan to do that as necessary. I didn't quite understand at first. We had students wanting a Chromebook, but telling us they had internet access at home. Why would you have internet access and not have a device to use on it? And finally, they explained that to me. The family may have father, mother, 2 or 3 kids, and only one computer. And they had multiple people needing to all work at the same time. So we had some families with multiple children that took more than one of our Chromebooks, which we were happy to do. And that's worked out really well. As best we can determine, about 200 of our students out of 3,300 had no internet access. That's the reason you may remember we made a big push to make internet access available other ways from the outside of our schools and from several churches around where people could sit in their car and use their device. We also, for most of those students, teachers put their assignments on thumb drives, and then we sent thumb drives to them, and then they sent their work back the same way. Teachers got very creative. They would have students do work on paper, then take a picture of it and email it to them in many cases. In some cases, we had to keep sending paper packets home. We started out trying to figure out, how to deliver them and for people to pick them up. And there was still some of that, but then we finally realized we were reinventing the wheel. We had an organization that was all set to take things from us to people's houses called the U.S. Mail. So we started mailing information back and forth, which worked very well. Didn't have any problem with that at all, particularly for the people that needed paper that did not have internet access. That's all worked very well. It goes without saying that we didn't accomplish anywhere near what we would have students had we had normal school. There's no way to do that. Those of you that have children at home, you know what I'm talking about. As the time went on, it got harder and harder. We've heard some stories of students that just didn't want to do any work. On the other end, we had students that did everything they were asked to do and more. The students that do well every day in a regular setting did pretty well in this setting. Those that don't do much work when they're at school didn't do much work in this setting. But two things have happened for sure. One, we're going to go into next year with all students, most students, I'll say, not where they normally would have been in terms of their learning. And second, the other thing is the gap in what the most able students know and what the least accomplished students know. That gap will be wider than it's ever been. Both those things pose challenges for us, and particularly for classroom teachers for next fall. And we will spend a lot of time with teachers this summer developing strategies to address that. That's going to be a big part of what we do. I want to talk about our food service for a minute. Got some numbers for you. When we wrap this up next Friday, that'll be our last day to deliver meals. We will have served about 63,000 meals to students at the various locations that we did it, including their homes. Another way to look at that, we will have delivered 189,000 cartons of milk and juice. If you of course, they're half pint cartons. If you translate that into gallons, that's about 4,000 gallons of milk and juice we will have delivered. About 60 of our staff was involved in that effort. It was a monumental task to get that organized and make it happen. And I've got a little short 3-minute video that I want to show you that just lets you see that, get a glimpse of that happening. Bear with me. It'll take me a second to get this going.
If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. If you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. Find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, yeah, yeah. If you're tossing and you're turning and you just can't fall asleep, I'll sing a song beside you. And if you ever forget how much you really mean to me, every day I will remind you. Oh, find out what we're made of when we are called to help our friends in need. You can count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, yeah, yeah. You'll always have my shoulder when you cry. I'll never let go, never say goodbye. Can't count on me like 1, 2, 3, I'll be there. And I know when I need it, I can count on you like 4, 3, 2, and you'll be there. 'Cause that's what friends are supposed to do, oh yeah. Ooh, you count on me 'cause I can count on you.
Patty Webb shot those pictures and put together that video, and I thought it captured very well the spirit of what we did. You know, a whole lot of those people, those young people that we were providing food for, that's very important. Without us, that would have been an issue in their families. And we couldn't have done it without so many of our staff members just pitching in and helping as they needed to and when we needed for them to. And it was, it's been quite an effort. Glad it's about over. They are, and they certainly are. It's been a lot of hard work on a lot of people. There's been a lot of heavy boxes lifted. I also want to give credit to the Alma Community Outreach Center. I suppose because of the circumstances, they had quite a bit of food, particularly fruits that were provided to them more than they could use. So they called us up and just about, well, I guess every Thursday, they've called us Thursday morning and we've gone down and picked up enormous amounts of, I did what?
You're sharing your screen still?
Oh. I'm sorry, folks. I didn't get this done right. It looked okay to me. Everybody got the screen back now? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
They provided us with a huge amount of fruits and vegetables, bananas, apples, oranges, grapes, blackberries, blueberries, plums. I can't begin to think how many thousands of pounds of fruit that they provided us that just kept us from having to buy it, because that kind of thing is a required portion, a required component of these kinds of meals. So that was very helpful to us, and we greatly appreciate it. As we go into the summer and as we go into our normal bookmobile program that we've done for years, we don't have this completely figured out and decided yet, but we're going to, through the bookmobile program, we're going to even increase our feeding. We're not going to do it like what we've done the last 8 weeks, but we are going to provide more food and provide it more regularly and more often through the bookmobile. We fed, on the average, we fed about 800 students a day, breakfast and lunch, through this program. It's one of those things you can't plan for. The first week, we learned a lot of lessons and made some significant changes in how we did it. But it turned out to be, we finally got it down to a system that worked out well and that we were able to manage real well. Everybody wants to know what's next and what's going to happen. We don't even know for sure what week after next looks like. Of course, we're all, we're not able to make many of these decisions ourselves. We are responding to the decisions and requirements of state government and of the governor. We think we're going to get some significant new information this coming Monday and Wednesday about what summer looks like. It's probably not next week going to get much new information about what fall looks like. Talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Of course, as you know, we are about as shut down as you can get through the end of May. Wednesday, we are supposedly going to get some more information on what June and maybe even into July looks like in terms of what types of activities are allowed to take place on campus, what we can do and what we cannot do. I have my guesses as to what we're going to learn, but they're just my guesses, so I'll not express those. But we will do whatever it is we're told we must do and what we can do and what we should do. As we've said over and over and over, we have every intention of having graduation in a normal fashion eventually. I truly believe we're going to do that in July. I don't know that, and we've not set a date because we don't know that we can. But I anticipate that in the next, well, hopefully even this coming week, we will find out whether or not that's possible. If we can't do it in July, then we'll try for August. What we intend to do, whenever we find out that we can, we're going to try to make that as good a week as we possibly can for our seniors. We will start with baccalaureate service on Sunday, as we typically do. But then we don't have it planned yet. We don't know what it'll look like, but we want to have sometime during the week, we want to have a cookout, perhaps a pool party, if we can find a facility for our seniors, something fun for them to get together, assuming that's all allowed, of course. Our plan is then on that Friday to have prom in as normal a way as we can. And then on Saturday, have commencement in the arena just like we usually do. That's what we're hoping to do. That's what we're planning to do. Now, of course, we have to wait until we're told that we will be allowed to do that. Again, our plan is to someday have commencement, just like we usually do. Now, I don't know what we do if that becomes Thanksgiving or further out than that. We'll just have to wait and see. We will shortly, in the next week or so, be able to give our seniors 8th semester transcripts showing that they have completed all requirements for them to send to colleges or to give to employers or those kinds of things. Transcripts is what matters from that standpoint. You know, colleges aren't interested in seeing the diploma, but they want to see that 8th semester transcript with the seal, with the school seal on it, and the words requirements completed on it. So we'll be doing that. We don't know what the summer looks like beyond that. We don't know when we will be able to resume having sports activities of any kind. It could be June 1, could be July 1. It could be 6 people at a time. It could be that and no full team activities. We just don't know. I can tell you there are a whole lot of people working on that. I'm on a session, an online meeting like this with various groups 7 or 8 times a week, where we are all learning from each other, giving each other our best thoughts, sharing ideas with each other. There's several groups of superintendents that are advising the Department of Education, advising the health department. You know, the health departments, I think, and the governor have done great work through all this. But of course, they're not educators, and they don't necessarily understand some of the things we have to do, and some of the things we can do, and some of the things we cannot do. So it's been really good that they're listening to us and making their decisions based on what we tell them works and what won't work. The Department of Education has been unbelievable through this. I have a great, not that I didn't before, but I have a great deal of admiration for the work they've done through this. They put in long hours and been very responsive to all of us as we've asked questions. You know, this kind of went in 3 phases. The first, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks, it was hectic. It was not hard work. It was not difficult, gut-wrenching decisions, but it was just an avalanche of things we had to deal with and things we had to address and answers we had to come up with. Then we finally got through that and things kind of settled down for a couple of weeks. We got into a routine of everything we were doing. And now, starting about a week ago, the focus has shifted to what's next. What does this summer look like? And then what does next fall look like? And that's kind of where we are now. That's what all our conversations are about, both internally within the district as well as statewide, and myself with fellow superintendents, our principals, with their peers around the state, and our curriculum people the same way. What are we going to do and how are we going to do it? The governor is very committed to us starting school in as normal a manner as we can. But of course, he does not know sitting here in May what that's going to need to look like. You know, on the one hand, we'd all like to have a decision right now as to what we need to start planning for. But at the same time, if that decision and announcement is made too soon, it's more likely to be wrong and have to be changed. So it's a balancing act of doing it as soon as they can decide, but as late as they feel like they have to wait for it to be the correct decision. So that's kind of where that is, and that's kind of what we're waiting on. I see 3 things that are facing us for fall. Let me say that a different way. 3 things that we've got to get accomplished in order to be prepared for fall. I think, I mean, everybody I talk to agrees that next school year is not going to be business as usual. It's either going to start differently, or at some point in time we'll close again, whether it's statewide or a county or a school district or even a school building or a section of the state or whatever. But it's not going to be, we're just not going to go straight back to what life as we used to know it. So to be prepared for that, we see three things that we've got to accomplish. And these are three big chunks, all of which have a jillion pieces to them. Number one is infrastructure. It's obvious that online learning is here to stay. We've got to get our infrastructure where every child has the ability to work at home on a computing device. That involves several things. We've got to look at our technology end, and we don't have much to do in that regard. Our network is very robust. We have plenty of equipment. We are going to purchase some more Chromebooks, partly because some of ours are at the end of their life. They're about 8 years old, and they're due for replacement. That was planned anyway. There are several programs available to us, and we've got to look at them and decide what works best between the cell phone companies, the cable company. Those of you that have Arkansas Valley Electric are probably aware that they are launching a new internet service in our area, which is it's turned on in some parts of Alma School District already, and in other parts it's supposed to happen in the coming months. We've got to look at all that. We've got to see if we can strike some deals to provide some financial incentives both to individuals, and some of them have already done that on their own, to us if we're going to be involved with some of that financially. As difficult as that sounds, that's probably the easiest piece of all this, is getting that part done. We have people certainly hard at work at that right now. The next piece, and these are not in any particular order, is the logistics. We've been given in the last several days things to think about, things to work on, I guess I would say. Again, these aren't rules. These aren't directives from the state yet, but the fact that they're suggesting we start thinking about them tells me that they're likely to become directives. Things like how do students change class during the day, assuming they're at school, without being too close to each other in the hallway? Having one door to come in and another door to go out, those sorts of things. And here's the big one. How do we maintain 6-foot social distancing in a classroom? That's the only way to do that, obviously, is to have fewer students in the classroom. Well, that requires more classrooms, more teachers. Those don't exist. So what does all that look like? What if we only have half the students at school at a time? What are the other half doing? Do we alternate days? These, none of this is decided. These are just all things that are out there on the table for consideration as to how we do this. The big choke point is getting students to school. About 60% of our students ride the bus. And, there's no way to be on a bus and be 6 feet away from someone. You're actually literally shoulder to shoulder, as all of you know. We don't know what that looks like. Nobody else does either. That's got to get figured out one way or another. We can't go buy 25 new buses. They're not out there to buy, and we don't have the money to buy them with if they were. We probably couldn't find the drivers to drive them. One of the ideas is for every bus to run their route 2 or 3 times to maintain a smaller number of students on the bus. That's doable, but it plays havoc with the daily schedule in the school. Some of the students would get to school 2 hours before the last ones did, and then same thing at the end of the day. So you can see some of the challenges we're facing just in that piece of it. We can't make a lot of those decisions other than playing the what if game, or what do we do if, which we are doing, but we can't decide for sure until we're given a lot more specific directive from the state. Again, that goes back to what I said earlier. We want it now, but at the same time, if we wait and they wait, we may have a better answer when the time comes. Yes. The last piece of the 3 I mentioned is teaching and learning. We have to help our teachers get way better than they are right now at designing lessons that can be taught equally well with students in front of them or students at the other end of the computer wire. Quite honestly, I anticipate that we're going to be doing both this fall. Don't know in what setting or what arrangement, but I think that's my guess, is that we're going to have students at school and we're going to have other students at home. maybe at the same time, trying to teach them both at the same time. Our teachers, that's not their training. We will be spending a lot of time developing those kinds of professional development and helping our teachers this summer get that figured out. That's the big lift. That's the hard one. Nobody in America has ever done this. It's not that we can go to this company or that company or these experts or that university and say, hey, send us somebody to help us learn how to do this. They don't know either. It's never been done like this before. So we're all kind of in this same boat of getting this figured out. All this to say, it's not going to be school as usual. You can write that one down. It's not going to be school as usual. Quite honestly, it may never be again. People that think, well, this will be over with and we'll go back to doing things just like we did 3 months ago. I don't really think that's going to happen. I think we have learned some lessons that'll make us better when we do get back to whatever our new normal is. It's going to make us more efficient. It's going to make us teach in a better way. It's going to make us more in tune with our young people that are all more technology savvy than any of us are. It's going to make all that work better. We just don't know what that looks like, and we don't know how we get there. One other piece of this, as we start school, I think no matter what the directives are from the state, no matter what they are, we're going to have some parents that are apprehensive about letting their children come to school, and that's going to be safe. No matter what we say, no matter what the governor says, there's going to be some parents that feel that way. And we can't just say, okay, you didn't come, so we're not going to educate you. We can't do that. We are obligated to do our best for those children. Hence the things I've been saying about getting equipped to provide online education. There's going to be other families, parents and students, that are going to say, this online thing worked pretty well for me. I kind of like this. I think I may just homeschool. We don't want to lose those students as Alma students. We want to be prepared to offer those students that make that decision an online learning experience through us, rather than them going to some other provider, which are out there that they can do that with. We want that to still be us. So I think you can see we've got plenty to keep us busy this summer. That covers all the notes I had written to myself. Any comments, questions, thoughts, anything you want me to talk about beyond all of that?
I know from my standpoint, I've just been so amazed from top level administrators just on down at what y'all were able to do. Nothing was perfect, but I have just been amazed, and I've been a proud Airedale for the past 7 weeks, seeing what was able to be accomplished. And not the best case scenario, but I think we did as good as what could have been done. And so I'm just thankful how hard y'all have worked.
Do you mind if I pass that on to the staff? I'm serious. I know I'm serious. Our teachers need to know, and I've told them, and I've sent you all the emails that I've sent them, but they need to know that their work is appreciated. And if you see some of our staff, please mention it to them.
Oh, I have been, and I'll let other people speak, but I think sometimes you and I joke that when you see me coming, it's usually for something bad. And it's been a neat process to see from being inside and outside, to see how hard it's worked and how it's worked well, as good as it could. So anybody else?
Well, I echo the same thing. It's been good. We don't. Our household is ready to get school back to normal, though. So.
I think there's scores and hundreds that feel the same way. That brings up another point, and I did skip over. We typically in the summertime have all kinds of activities, from sports camps to Camp Airedale to gifted workshops. We have hundreds of students on campus at all age levels all summer, and that's just all off the books right now. There's there's no chance of us any of that happening in June. There still is some possibility, some chance that we might be able to do a little bit of that sort of thing in July. We will, if we can do any of that at all, because not only do we want to see the kiddos and do teachers, believe me, teachers miss their kids. I can't tell you how many teachers I've talked to that they just say things like, I never dreamed that I would be so hungry to see my students. They miss them. We need to get them back. They need to see each other. They need to get out of your house. That all needs to happen. And if there's anything we can do later on, the middle of the summer, if that's allowed, I can promise you we will be doing it.
Anyone else?
Well, I'll join in the same sentiment, but I'm also glad for the children to get back to school and see their teachers. But I'm proud of the work that everybody's done. I think certainly there were bumps in the road, but I think overall everything I've seen just in my house and then the people I've talked to as well, I'm proud of everybody and the work they've done. So.
Well, I will pass all that on to our staff sometime in the near future. I can promise you, our teachers are ready for next Friday to get here. They're worn out. They've never worked so hard, and I understand that. And we're not going to hit them with anything the week of Memorial Day that week. But then starting June 1, we've got things already cranking back up to try to help get prepared for fall.
We've got one last item. We got new business. Do you want to tell us about the recommendations for employment?
Yeah, we have 5 people to recommend for employment. This list will at the moment make us fully staffed. Now, I don't expect that to last. We'll still have some more movement. It's really hard to remember. We're still in May. This is still the middle of May. It feels like August because it's just that the vibe of what's going on. But anyway, Miranda Bush is a teacher in Fort Smith, has been for quite some time. As you see, 19 years. She's moving over here, will be teaching at the primary school. Tracy Kennett will be teaching at the middle school. She is from Van Buren and taught in Van Buren for 11 years, the last 9 in Mountainburg. She lives in Alma. Her family lives in Alma, and she's excited to get back to being an Airedale. Alice Staggs is a beginning teacher. She has just done her internship at Van Buren Fort Smith, student of graduate of UA Fort Smith. Brooke Tankersley, another beginning teacher, will be at the intermediate school, again UA Fort Smith. Tara Trusty, some of you know her. Tara Howard was her maiden name when she was in school here. She's been gone for a number of years over in the eastern part of the state. Her reason for wanting to get back here is she is bound and determined that her children are going to graduate as Airedales. And that's her one motivation for wanting to get back over here, because she wants her children to have the Airedale experience. It's my pleasure to recommend these 5 people to you for employment.
I move to approve their employment recommendation.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Let's roll call vote. Brister,
Yes.
we're going to do a roll call vote. Brister,
Yes.
Fott,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Rucker,
Yes.
Ware,
Yes.
Ware.
Said yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know if my volume. And Horton
Yes.
and Jernigan's a yes. So
That's all we have. Thank you very much. I again, just like I've been saying all evening, I can't tell you whether we will need to do this in June or whether we'll be able to have a live meeting. We'll have to wait and see how things develop. I think it's important that you as a school board set the example of following the rules and following social distancing, if that's what the state is directing us to do. I would certainly much prefer for us to be back together in the boardroom, but we'll make that decision when we get close to the meeting date.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Let's just, if I can see everybody.
Aye.
Any opposed?